but my illustrious hosts here did see some movies. One in particular that actually did well in the box office this week was Phantom Menace 3D, the episode 1 of the Star Wars. What would you call that? Sextology, or we just say 2 trilogies?
I'd probably say 2 trilogies.
So Justin, you did see this, correct?
Uh-huh.
And tell us about it. How was it? Oh no.
I have spent a lot of years defending the Star Wars movies in general and the prequels more recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I can defend episode 1 anymore. I want to. I feel like I'm one of those people who has a sibling or a child that has been in trouble with the law and they're in jail, and you love them, you care about them, you want them to do well, you believe them when they say they didn't do it, and you're the only one in their corner sticking up for them. I can't do it anymore. The story is shit. There are so many moments
oh my God,
where Lucas could have done something special or done something interesting and just completely drops the ball on occasion after occasion. And I've tried to look at it in the most rose-colored glasses sort of way, and I can't do it anymore. It's boring. It's lacking in some. I'm constantly amazed how in one scene I will see things that are so amazingly imaginative and brilliantly conceived, followed up by a scene that is so lacking in imagination and creativity. And it makes me weep a little bit because Star Wars is something very special to me. And to see it just kind of mired in mediocrity upsets me. But I knew I wanted to see The Phantom Menace in 3D when it came out. I wanted to see how it looked. I knew there were certain scenes that were tailor-made for 3D. The pod race scene, I think, being probably the most obvious one. The fight in space at the end of the film with the Naboo fighters against the Federation control ship. Even the battle on Naboo, I knew had to look pretty. And the film, for the most part, looks fine. It certainly doesn't look as good as something like Avatar that was filmed, designed, conceived, executed in 3D. This is all post-production, and for the most part, they do a serviceable job. Things in the foreground look like they're in the foreground. Things in the background look like they're in the background. Surprisingly, though, for me, the prettiest and most 3D-ish scenes are on Coruscant, where the screen is just full of, the sky is full of ships and cars, flying cars going this way and that. There's so much in those frames. To see the layers of depth was, I thought, really pretty. And I think Coruscant never looked better. And the pod scene looked pretty good, but I found myself, unfortunately, I kept nodding off. Because I've seen The Phantom Menace probably without any kind of exaggeration. I've probably seen it 20 times.
Oh, wow.
Through the various, when it first came out in theaters, I think I saw it 3 times. Now I've gone back to see it 4. I've bought it on regular DVD, Blu-ray. So yeah, I've probably seen it anywhere between 15 and 20 times. When you see a movie that often, there are going to be those moments where you're going to start nodding off. This movie in particular has got long stretches of boring bullshit that I can no longer force myself to sit through waiting for the cool shit. So unfortunately, I feel like my love affair with The Phantom Menace in particular is over. I'm sick of it. I don't think I'll ever be able to watch the movie again because I'll constantly be thinking, how could he have done this better? How could he have made this story stronger? And being upset that he dropped the ball. Brian, 2 and 3, I have more love for, and I can still kind of defend with some vigor. Episode 1, not anymore.
Well, Brian, I think I owe you $5.
I want to love it, George. I really do, but I can't do it anymore.
Oh, that blows my mind. That it took a 3D version of the movie for you to finally.
I've been heading this way for a while, but sitting in a theater to watch it just brought it all home.
I'm kind of blown away,
Wow.
and I had to mention one thing about. Obviously, I haven't seen it yet, but I looked at some reviews, and I actually found an article that was talking about the top 10 things wrong with Phantom Menace. And this is not me knocking it. I just thought this was interesting because the original trilogy had awesome storyline. It had princess that needed rescuing from a Death Star, which was the size of a small moon. Empire Strikes Back had Han and Luke and Leia, or Han and Leia running away from the Empire and these awesome hiding in an asteroid. And Return of the Jedi had this rescue from Jabba and all this cool stuff happening. Phantom Menace had trade negotiations and Senate stuff and politics.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to turn this into the Star Wars podcast. I understand what Lucas was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to tell the story of Darth Vader, and he wanted to start that story with Vader as a kid. He also wanted to include the mother of Luke and Leia in the movie, so he needed a girl of approximately the same age. All right, fine, I get that. He could have done that, though, in such a way that it made more sense than a planet electing a 14-looking-year-old girl to be their queen, their leader. That makes no sense that they would have someone so young. Amidala could have easily been the daughter of the queen, still been involved in the story, and still have Anakin and her forming a relationship. There are a lot of elements to the Phantom Menace that don't make sense, that could have been done better and would have made the story work overall in a much better way. For me, it's the whole thing with it crystallizes in Obi-Wan beating Darth Maul the way that he did. That makes no sense. I mean, leaping up in front of this guy, flipping over his head, then landing, then turning, and then cutting him in half. This guy who has obviously just killed one Jedi and has proven himself to be a master swordsman, and that's how you're going to beat him. It's stupid, and it makes no sense. It could have worked if Lucas had spent 5 more minutes going, how can I make this make sense? But he didn't, and nobody around him did either. And so
I do have just one more question about it, because the one thing that I was looking forward to seeing this in 3D was that final lightsaber battle. Now, granted, the way that they finally offed Darth Maul, like you just said, was less to be desired. But how did it look in 3D? Because that's like my favorite scene from the movie.
It looked fine. The environment that the end of the fight took place in, that behind the heat shields in that room with the bottomless hole, wasn't as exhilarating as the earlier part where they're kind of jumping across the different bridges and going, jumping from one to the other. It looked nice. I mean, on Blu-ray, those scenes look great. I'm more looking forward to the Clone War, and especially the battle on Mustafar at the end of Episode 3. And of course, when they get to the Death Star run in 4 and especially the battle at the end of 6.
Oh, that's going to be
really
so cool.
cannot wait to see that in 3D.
Like
so
9,000
even though
TIE
this one
fighters.
left kind of a sour taste in my mouth, I will still go and see the other 5 movies with my anticipation building with each one.
Yeah, at least they're just going to get better as they go.
Right. The best is yet to come. So that's a good positive note to end that on.
All right, so that's Star Wars. I know this is a weird question to ask about, what is it, 10 years old now? But I mean, what do you give it? How many dollars out of 10?
I'd say 6, and that's being generous. Probably more like 5.
Wow. My mind is still blown.
I can't defend it anymore. I'm sorry. I have to now agree with all those assholes that, 10 years ago were complaining about elements that I was like, no, you don't get it. This is what he meant. This is what he was going for. Now I'm like, yeah, you assholes were right. It was lazy. It was boring. It was not interesting. And Star Wars should be anything but boring.
Agreed.
Wow.